Principle 5, be skillful. What we'd like to talk about is, as far as skills are concerned, in ball control, what skills are we talking about and in what priority? And then furthermore, in Chapter 7, we're going to show you how to train it. So Ben, as far as be skillful in ball control, what's the most important thing we have to focus on first?
First thing we're going to cover is the divot. So, did you know the divot is going to begin about a 1/4 inch in front of the ball when you're striking an iron? So the first thing that we have to become skillful with is getting a divot in the appropriate place.
Very good. And then so hitting a divot in the appropriate place makes it solid.
Yes, sir.
As far as the starting point for making it solid.
Yes.
Got it. So we want to get more skillful around controlling the divot.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. So in Chapter 7, we're going to show you how to walk yourself through it. So do you want to start that conversation now and show folks how you would walk people through training this divot control skill?
Yeah, most definitely. So the first thing that we're going to do here is, as far as gaining control of your divot, we're going to start with the height. Okay, so when you're beginning to train the divot at home, you're going to try to do 3 different things to start. You're going to try to take a big divot, you're going to try to take no divot, and then you're going to try to brush the grass. And just like we talk about in the book, there may be a disconnect between intention versus reality when you do this. And that's okay if there is that gap. You're trying to figure out what you need to commit to in order to swing at the appropriate height.
Very good. So we're talking divot control is a skill.
Yep.
We're going to understand there's going to be an intention versus reality gap, and that's okay. So we're going to start with the swing height first?
You got it.
All right, so show us what you want folks, our friends at home to do.
So first thing that you're going to do at home is you're just going to start by making some swings. Go ahead and get in your setup position with no ball and see if you can just make some swings where you take no divot at all. So you're working on swinging too high.
All right, so in this case, if you were to do this and the ball were in the way, you would top the ball or perhaps miss the ball if you were to swing so high.
Or perhaps flush it.
That could be true.
We don't know, right? Yeah, so if you're a player that maybe takes a really, really deep divot and you run this experiment where you're trying to maybe skull the ball or take no divot, what might happen on the back end is the divot could be absolutely perfect. So we don't know.
Very good. So we're going to start with swinging too high on purpose. That's the intention part of this, yes?
That is true.
All right, very good. So now, show us a swing that's too low.
Too low. Here we go.
Okay. We'll only demonstrate that once. We're out here at beautiful Red Run Country Club. We'll do that one time. So we're going to ask you to practice this on your own at the range or in your yard, somewhere where you don't mind taking such a big divot. So for some folks are actually swinging too low, and that doesn't allow them to strike it appropriately.
Yeah, one of the things that we see all the time at B Golf is most times when the player is trying to swing too low, they actually hit the appropriate amount of ground. So for some reason, there's a lot of golfers out there that they're afraid to hit the ground. So when they run the experiment of hitting too much grass, typically what happens in a lot of cases, they hit the appropriate amount of turf.
Very good. So we're going to ask you to swing too high on purpose, then too low, and then this next one is going to be somewhere in between or what you think is just right. Beautiful. So brush the grass appropriately. In that case, we would say the swing height was just right.
Yes.
So because you've done this for 35 plus years, you made that look easy. Remember, when you do this, there might be a difference between what you try to do and what actually happens. So as far as skills go, we want to focus on the divot first.
Yep.
Swing height is the very first place to start, yes?
That is true.
All right, very good. So after you have folks do this, and then we would ask you, before we move on here, to do this with the ball in the way so you can understand where that swing height needs to be, or not be, if you will.
That is true.
All right, good. So we had the swing height. Then where would you go?
Now you have to get the divot in the appropriate location. So now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to hit the ground a little bit behind this tee that we have in the ground, too far in front of the tee, and then slightly in front of the tee. Once again, there may be a slight disconnect between intention versus reality, and this experiment that you're going to run at home is ultimately going to allow you to be successful.
So where are you going to start? Are you going to start swinging where you interact with the ground too far forward or too far behind?
Let's go too far forward so it's a little bit easier to see on camera. So I'm going to go too far in front here.
All right, so we can tell by the dew on the grass that club actually interacted with the ground well in front of the ball. It did it again. So we know that the bottom of that swing arc was well forward of the middle of your stance, yeah?
You got it.
All right, very good. And then do it what you feel like is too far behind. All right. And then lastly, somewhere in between. Very good. So you talked early on about the divot needing to be slightly in front of the ball.
Yes.
And so in that case, that would probably be appropriate if a ball were there.
Pretty close, yeah.
Very good. So at B Golf, when we have folks come see us to train, we're going to have them do this. We call it Goldilocks training, where you can freely swing the club in different areas. so you can get more skillful or more precise with the quality of the strike, so you can train yourself to become better striking the ball solid. Yeah,
That is true.
all right, very good.
For those of you at home that maybe need some ideas on how to do this, right? A couple things that you can play around with. I think the easiest solution is just look more forward or look more backwards. It's a pretty easy way to move around the divot, and then use a slight, moderate, severe scale to figure out how far forward or how far behind the ball you need to look. Another one that we use each and every day is there's got to be some pressure that's moving over to this lead side when you're swinging a golf club. So oftentimes what you'll notice is the more pressure you get over to the lead side, the more it moves the divot more forward. The more pressure you get moving backwards, the more it moves the divot backwards.
Yeah.
So just a couple starting points for all of you at home, or experiments that you can run to start moving this thing around.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So a lot of folks will come to us and they'll say, I'm hanging back. They're hanging back too far on the right side, and they've taken lessons, and ultimately they said they can't fix it. When we have them do these experiments at B Golf, it's amazing how it really starts to organize itself, and the pressure starts moving forward, and they're able to hit it more solid. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad that you brought up the slight, moderate, severe continuum, so we're going to talk more about that. You're going to have to continually play with this because it will change from day to day. There is no fix, and it's not going to be, if today is you're focused just in front of the ball, it's going to be that way every day. So you're going to have to continually go train this so you can develop your skills and own those skills more and more as you go forward. Okay, so the divot is the first part of this, solid striking. What's the second part of this?
Second part of solid striking is going to be to find the center of the club face. So if you're hitting the heel side or the toe side of the golf club, it's going to slow down the speed of the golf ball. And we want to make sure that this golf ball flies off the club face. We want fast ball speeds. So the second thing that's going to allow you to hit it solid is going to be to find the center of the club face.
Very good. So not only do you have to swing and get the divot to be appropriate, but you have to hit the middle of the
club face.
Of the club face.
You got it.
So we are going to talk a lot more about this as we go. We're going to use face tape to get clear feedback. So since we're on here, let's use 2T. So go ahead and put your club face in between there. This is something you can do in the yard if you don't have any golf balls or a range to go to. So then you can start by swinging down the middle, or go get the outside tee, or go get the inside tee.
Yep.
So just move it around to get an understanding of where that club is being swung, not so much how you're swinging it, yes?
Okay, so first swing, I'm going to basically just try to go in between the tees and just see what happens. So I'm just running an experiment here, not trying to get anything right.
Okay, so you're able to pass the club head through the gate, if you will.
Now I'm going to set up the same way, but now I'm going to try to hit the outside tee, see what happens. Okay, now I'm going to try to hit the inside tee, see what happens.
Very good. Try to run it back through the middle here. Let's put a ball in the way.
Sure.
Got the martini tee out. Okay, so let's see here. So bring that club head here. So if the ball were in the middle and the divot were closer to the outside tee, would it be fair to say you probably made contact closer to the heel on that one versus the dead middle?
It was fairly close to center, but yeah, maybe slightly heel, not much.
Yeah, so playing around with this, back to the slight, moderate, severe continuum, you're going to get a sense of where that club is being swung and give you something to go on so you can organize it. So what we don't want is severe heel. That's not going to work.
Nope.
We'll call that the shank. Or severe toe. That's not going to work either. So we have to find out where that club's being swung at the appropriate divot and swing height. You get more and more skillful as you go.
The other beautiful thing about this activity is if you look at how this is set up, you can see where your divot starts too.
Yes.
So you can kind of combine both of those things. So you can see here that the divot started slightly in front of the ball. That was fine. And just like Chad said, it might have been slightly on the heel side, but you can kind of kill two birds with one stone with this activity.
Yeah, very good. So we're trying to combine the freedom of the swing. So we want to get you to commit to swinging freely with the precision of where that club is being swung relative to the ball. So ultimately, that's how you're going to blend both the free swinging motion and the solid striking piece of this.
That is true.
Very good. And then furthermore, we're going to encourage you, to continue to go back to this training every time you go to the range, kind of like you have to go back to the push-ups every time you go to the gym if you want to get in shape. So you want to repeat this often. So typically some good training rules, short time on task, 5 to 7 minutes at a time, but you got to do it every time. And then the skills grow and adapt over time.
I think some other things with this video is just some ideas on how to move the club face around here. So when you're setting up in between these tees and you notice you have the ability to hit the outside tee and hit the inside tee, you're basically proving to yourself that you have the ability to shift the contact point towards the toe or towards the heel on command if you ever need to. So now an example of how this would work is, let's say that I'm setting up in between the tees and I keep on hitting this outside tee. Well, it's telling me that I'm hitting the heel every time, so I need to have a solution for that issue. So now the solution is, can you take your focus and start to swing more on the inside part of the golf ball? Because we know when we swing on more on the inside part of the golf ball, we're going to move the contact point more towards the toe side of the club. So as you're trying to move the contact point towards the toe side of the club, what's going to happen is you're going to accidentally stumble upon center face. And that is ultimately the goal. So you're playing around with how far inside that ball you would need to look in order to find center using the slight, moderate, severe scale.
Yeah, very good. So practicing this way also develops our principle of being adaptable.
Yeah.
You find out you can make appropriate adjustments along the way, and in doing so, find out the ability that you have the ability to help yourself, which is the best gift you can give yourself.
You got it.
Very good. Anything else before we close out this video?
Enjoy striking it more solid. We know that these two things have been proven in our facility at B Golf. So enjoy the process. Be open to experimentation, and remember, you're not trying to get it right. You're just operating out of a state of curiosity, and you're trying just to see what happens when. So as long as you're operating out of the state of curiosity, you will stumble upon tools that work for you every time you go play.
All right. Keep swinging freely. Find the middle of the club face. Find the divot. We know this will help you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.